Hello guys, how are you? So I hope you all are right. So today we will start discussing chapter 2 for interview series in JavaScript. So as I told you, every day I will put a video around 3 to 5 questions. So each day you have some understanding how we have to give answer in front of interviewer. Okay, and how much we have to tell. Just like this is very important, the critical part we have to tell and mind. Just like when you are in front of in front of interviewer, so always try to give exact answer, not more than the lines of answers. Okay, when anybody asks what are variables? So you have only in one line. Variables are container, some identifier, some name, which holds the values, different kind of values. Beside this, if you are telling some story, some more story, so you are giving the opportunity, you are giving the just like some clue to the interviewer that they just pick some new question from your answer. So just keep in mind only the whatever you have asked. So you have to tell only the particular specific things, not more than that. Okay, just keep this point in your mind when you are going for interview. Don't speak more than the expected answer. Okay, so let's start today. So there are three questions I have written here. So first is what is difference between let, var and const. So these are the keywords. These are the keywords used in the JavaScript to declare or define a variable. Okay. So what is the difference between? The question is this. So what is the difference exactly? I will tell you what is the difference by doing, not only the theory part, by doing. Okay, so this is our new chapter, chapter 2. What is the difference between let, const and var? So in one line, let, const and var. These are used for declaring the variable in JavaScript. And what is difference? The difference is that let is the keyword used to declare a variable, and it's it is just like block scoped. Its value is block scoped. How? Just check that. First, I will start from let. So first is value. Let values are block scoped in one line. One answer for let. Let is used for declaring a variable. Let values are block scoped. So what does it mean, block scoped? You can give an example with this. Easy example, just like let a equal to 10. Okay, I define a variable with let. And again, just type here if a, this is the block scope. These curly braces, wherever this curly braces is there, this is called the block scope. Okay, any just like if some true, so this is also a block scope. If statement, loop statement, switch statement, and any function is there, function definition is there, wherever this curly braces are there, this is called block scope. So let values are block scoped. So now I again A, I overwrite this value 30. So what would be the output here? You need to just practice the output with let. So now node chapter. So you can see its answer is 30. Why? Because we can reassign a value with let. We can reassign, means value can be reassigned. Okay. Now just see. Here I declare as var. Sorry. For let we have to complete first. So let a. Now what will happen here? It's a 10. So my answer is here. Let values are block scoped. It means when anybody is defined with let keyword, if again it redefined, so just like redeclare. So if again it is let a is again redeclare with value updated value 30. It means just like in the let only redefined is possible. We can redefine the value, but again we cannot redeclare and define something. Just like if you feel something like this, a equal to 30. This will also not work. This is the same as I have written first. These two are same pattern. We cannot redeclare with let. Because of that, the scope of this variable is within this scope. Okay, block scope. The scope of this variable a is within this. Just like outer side of this is only this a is scoped value is present. Okay, so available just like global scope, we can say global scope values are printed out here. You can see 10 is printed out. But when we only defined a equal to 50, okay, I commented out. You can see here now. Now what happens? You can see 50 because let values can be redefined, but they cannot redeclare. And you can write here the second thing, let values can be redefined. Okay, but can't be, cannot reassign. Reassign. Reassign is not possible. Redefined is possible. I have redefined here. But when I reassign again, so it means just like with keyword, the same let keyword, its block scope is bounded within the block, so it is not accessible. Although here also, without this block scope, you can see here, when I just write let a, so it shows the error, cannot redeclare, cannot redeclare. You can write here redeclare. Okay. But can be redefined. You can see here, can be redefined. That is 30. So its value becomes 30. Not if it is not in the block scope. But within the block scope, within the block scope, if anything is here redeclare, for example, let, that will work. There is not any error, that this will not show any error, but its value is not taking this one, its value is taking this one. So what happens now? You can see its value is 10 because it is inside this block. So block scope means we cannot use this value outside this block. Okay, so this is the concept of let. Let values are block scoped. Second is let values can be redefined with the same name but cannot be redeclared. Redeclare is not possible. But here we can easily redeclare, but we are not using outside. The global values are accessible outside. So these 2 points about the let. And what about the const? The same pattern if we are following with const. Same, both the same, but there is a difference. What difference is this? Here, also the const, if I write something const, and again, I just comment it out, block things. If I again type A is equals to 20 and printing this will show me the error. Here you can see assignment to constant variable. The assignment redefinition is not possible in const. Okay, let values are const values are also block scope. This is the common point, but the let values, the const values can not, here cannot be redefined or redeclared. So what about this? If I just comment it out and just show here, and again I write const. So what happens here? The same value will be printed it out as it was before because it is block scope. The first point, block scope. Within this block, this is not compare with this A. Both are different. But immediately you cannot redefine, either you cannot redeclare with the for the const keyword. With the const keyword, we cannot either redefine or redeclare, but here in let we can redefine but cannot redeclare. Just make everything clear over here with the examples. So what about the var? What about the var now? For if we are writing with var a, everything is possible with var. So here, what happens? Just we will see 20, it overrides. So it actually expect it is var. By default, it is var. Okay. So if we are writing the var again, so there is not any error. This will print. If we are writing inside this block scope, so what happens? Var a is equals to 20. You can see here. Very important. It's not don't take it easy, because if there is a confusion, then confusion will always with you. So if a is 20, a is sorry, a is 10, a is 20, and again inside this block scope, what happens when a is there? 3 times a written with the var keyword. So what happens? The final output, yeah, 50 is the final output. Why? Because the scope of var is not within this block scope. So var has no scope with in brackets. Okay. There is not any scope. It can be override, it can be redefined, it can be redeclare everything. But one difference is there with var. If we are writing some function, for example, function dis display something, and we are using this for a equal to 30. Okay, and we are again immediately I will call this function. After this I call this function. Okay, so what happens? I will write one variable that will sufficient. So here where a equal to 10, I just defined a function, simple function, where var a is there. I just call this function. It means when I call this function, this variable scope, just variable have their uh, inside this function can be accessed. So what happens here if we are printing this? You can see 10 is printed out. But with block scope, var has no block scope, no block scope within brackets. But what happens here? Var has their scope inside the function. It means var has functional scope. Functional scope. So you can see the difference. Let can be redefined, redeclare. It is a block scope. It is common. It is common. Const cannot be redefined or redeclare. And with var cannot be having no any block scope, can be redeclared, redefined, but var has functional scope. When we are defining any variable, declaring any variable inside this, inside any function, so its scope is within this function, not the outside one. So these are three differences you have to remember. I will push this code so you will get these points cleared and make a practice on these points. So what is the question second? What are the fat arrow functions in JavaScript? I already told you in one video that there are fat arrow functions, but again, I will show you the syntax over here. Fat arrow functions. What are the fat arrow functions? Simple syntax. Const, can say display. Display equal to, this is the fat arrow function. Okay, how this is converted in a very simple way. If there is some function, you can see this is function and there is not any arrow. So this is the some general function. With the fat arrow function, the function keyword should not be there. Arrow is there. And if we are printing only single value, so this curly braces also should not be there. For example, if we are printing this, okay, so what happens if we are logging this display function, because we are calling this function. So what happens? You can see 10 is the output. When we are putting is 100, so it's 100 output. So arrow function, fat arrow function syntax you have to remember. When there is just like any not any parameter, so you can easily write it down just like underscore something. Okay, so the same, the main meaning is same. And when there is any parameter, you have to pass, for example, x comma y. So you need to just like create a curly braces in that case. Okay, just like summing of this value. So return should be there, x plus y. Okay, so these can be happened. Okay, so this is the arrow function. With this arrow function, if we have some parameter, then you can use this curly braces. Okay, otherwise with this parameter you can omit this curly braces also. You can just write it down x plus y. Okay, so you can write it down x plus y. Okay, so this is the syntax of fat arrow function. What are the fat arrow function? Fat arrow function, you can tell exactly this type. You can say the fat arrow functions has there, just like minimal syntax is there than the normal functions. Okay, so now arrow functions actually have some there other useful things. What is the scope of this with arrow functions? This is very important question, and this is very confusing for all the just like developers. For all developers it is very confusing, and I will just try to understand what is the scope of this within just like arrow function. So we will take an example here. Const person. Okay, it is an object. Person is an object. You can take name, comma, language, language array. You can take, for example, English, Hindi, French, and American. Okay, these are language array with us for this object. And you can take a method, display method. You can take like this, colon, like this, and having some console values, for example, log inside method. You can have some understanding how this arrow function, this is bind, this keyword is bind with arrow functions. For more arrow functions, I have a video. You can just follow that video and you have some understanding. If there is any confusion, then you can ask. So sometimes it is called the fat arrow functions also. So don't confuse over that. So I have put this, and when I call this, I clear this so that you have. Okay, so how we will call this method, display method? The very easy thing, display and method. So you can call this by dot operator inside method. Okay, don't go for typo. Sorry for that. So now what happens? Simply when I call this display method, it gives me the result. But what happens when we display this language here? This dot language. Why we are adding this with language? Because we are the inside one method. So, and this is object. Object is an instance of the class. So if object or class, we are using this in the JavaScript. Okay. So here with the use of this, we can try to get this language array, because this belongs here. What is this belongs? This belongs to the object. Okay. So what happens now? Step by step, you just have to understand. I will come to the point of arrow function. But what happens when again I write some other functions inside the function? Just like inside this object, there is a function and there is another function inside this display function. So what it means, just like for each. For each is the higher order function. I have told in one video. Directly you can call this. So what happens here? If I call this, for example, res. Okay. So what happens here? Just comment it out. Res. First, I print the res. Res means all the languages should be printed from the array. So all languages are printed out here. You can see. But what happens when I call this language? You can see undefined, undefined, undefined. Why? Why this happens? Why it is undefined? Because this keyword is associated with this function only, with this high level function only. This keyword is belongs to this function only. Scope of this here is only within this function, high level function, not outside of this. So there are ways how to fetch this language to just like make to avoid this undefined. How to fetch this language array or language. So there are two methods. One is just like make var that equal to this. And you can use that here. So what will be the output now? You can easily access this because it is inside the loop. So it is printing more than times, means 4 times. So don't just like go there, but we are able to print. There is no any undefined things are printed at all. So this is the one. Second is just like you can bind this because this is not associated. This is only associated with this function. Scope of this here only within this function. Okay. So second, there are three things. First, I will show you that assigned that this assigned to that and that have this scope and you can print. Second is just like dot bind and bind this. You can bind this. So when you are binding this, so its scope becomes here display with the display method. Scope becomes here with here till here. The scope becomes. So what happens now when we are outputting? So here is some error. What error is here? That okay. You can see right this. You can see same output, whatever I have mentioned. Using bind this, its scope is available with this function for this object function, for this object method. This is the second. Third is what? Yes. Third is nothing. We are using the fat arrow functions. Because fat arrow function, this is not within the function. Its scope is lexical. Its scope is to its parent. Lexical means to its parent. So now what happens? I just remove this function keyword and add this arrow and all the codes are as it is. Now what happens? You can see from this fat arrow function, this keyword is not limited to this function, but it goes to the parent here. So it is easily access the all the attributes, whatever it is array name. You can also log here name. Simply you can log. because it is accessible here. This dot name. Okay, so it is accessible. You can print it out. The name is printing here. So try to understand the inside the inside the with the help of arrow function, we cannot bind this within their own scope. Okay, this is not bind when we are using fat arrow function. This is not bound to their own scope, but it inherits, its scope is inherit to its parent, to its lexical scope. Okay, surroundings means parent. So now this actually binds this function, and this function is for which person's object. So if this display is available to the person object, or we can say display person object has the display method. So if the person object and these two are easily accessible, it means that this language is also accessible, because it is pointing to display. It means it is pointing to the person object. Okay. So these three questions I have discussed today. For tomorrow and later on, we are continuously discussing every topic, so that you have the understanding and you can tell exactly with the example, you can tell in front of interviewer. Thank you guys, thank you so much, and please like my videos and just like subscribe my channel, so that you can get the latest interview videos, so that you have some, if you are going for interview process, so it is very beneficial for you. And make a practice with me, try to practice with me. Okay, thank you very much.